Welcome to the next episode of the Austin Bar Association's Council of Firsts. I'm your host, Amanda Arriaga, First Latina Bar President. This podcast is made possible by the Texas Bar Foundation. Today we talk to a panel of distinguished women talking about an important topic. The Denise Hyde Scholarship Fund was established in 2012 to support older children being adopted or aging out of foster care with school and living expenses. Justice Darlene Byrne is the Chief Justice of the Third Court of Appeals of Texas. Prior to that, she served for 20 years as the presiding judge of the 126th Judicial District, which is responsible for all child protection services cases in Travis County. She's a commissioner for the Texas Children's Commission and is a past president of the National Council for Juvenile and Family Court Judges. She's a graduate of the University of Houston Law Center. Judge Leigh Mathews Rodriguez is an associate judge for the Travis County District Court, where she presides over child welfare proceedings and family law. She's a graduate of the University of Texas School of Law. Allison Edwards is the vice president of the Board of Directors of Foster Angels of Central Texas and a graduate of the University of Houston Law Center. This panel has been working together to ensure that the Denise Hyde Scholarship Fund gets to deserving children in Central Texas, and I'm excited to talk to them today. Thank you all for being here with me today to talk about this important need, the Denise Hyde Scholarship Fund. And I want to start by asking all of y'all, why did you want to be a lawyer? And specifically, why is the child welfare field so important to you? So I'm going to start with you, Judge Mathews Rodriguez.
Wow. A big question about how someone finds themselves as a lawyer. But I grew up being interested in it. I did teen court as a kid, which was super cool. But I also knew that I wanted to work with families and I wanted to work with children in some capacity. So I originally got my undergraduate degree in social work and started a social work career and knew that I wanted to further my education. Looked at what options I had available to me and thought, I think I can put these two things together, an interest in the law and an interest in social work. And so for that reason, I landed back in law school and started to build my resume and experience around child welfare and family law.
Wonderful. Justice Byrne, why did you want to be a lawyer and why is child welfare so important to you?
My father was my inspiration to be a lawyer. My mom and dad, neither one of them went to college at all. And my father was named as a senior in high school as the most intellectual in his high school. I think he always wanted to be a lawyer. And so in high school, I thought I was going to be a missionary. And I went and took Spanish in college from a French native speaker. I went to Mexico, made all A's, and I went to Mexico and I couldn't understand a word after 2 years of Spanish. So I thought maybe missionary work was not exactly what I was cut out for. I have a Southern language pattern, very slow. My ears are very slow as well. So I don't think Spanish was meant for me. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to be my father, a surrogate for my dad. And I read very slowly, so I didn't think I'd be able to succeed in law school. So I became a legal secretary by day after undergraduate, and I eventually went to paralegal school in the Rice Village in Houston at night. And then I became a paralegal by day, and University of Houston opened up their first night school while I was a paralegal. And so I applied for night school and worked full time during the day as a paralegal. I love it. I absolutely love it. I nerd out on school. So that was great. And child welfare really came to me kind of in a sideways manner. I had never done family law. I had only been a lawyer in fights over money. And when I tried my first termination of parental rights case to the bench in 2003, I realized just how critically important it is what the courts do to ensure that children have a safe place to lay their head down at night. It seemed like the most important thing going on in the courthouse. And so I went to my colleague, Judge Jean Muir, and asked if she could teach me. And she did. And that's the end of the story. I drank the Kool-Aid, realized this is my life's passion.
It's like you're getting your missionary work in this way.
It kind of is. I still can't speak Spanish.
That's okay. People can help you with that. There are interpreters at the court.
There are.
Allison, why is child welfare so important to you?
I was interested in law school and undergrad. I started working with kids who'd been through a trauma in undergrad. So I ended up staying an extra year and got my Master of Education, went to Houston and worked for Ben Taub and Texas Children's Hospitals, worked with kids who'd been through a trauma and their families, and realized the intersection between legal, that world of trauma is overwhelming. So I went to law school to continue that work, but from a legal perspective, and as a CASA volunteer and big supporter of volunteer legal services. The child welfare system is just critical. I just, where would we be with without it, some kind of system?
It's so interesting that all three of you have such different backgrounds, but the theme is the same: social work, missionary, trauma-informed education. It all sort of leads to this child welfare system, unfortunately. But fortunately for the system, we have all of y'all, and we have organizations that do support. We have courts that do support, and we have this scholarship that we're going to talk about. But first, I want to talk to you, Judge Mathews Rodriguez, about we have a dedicated CPS court in Travis County. Why is it important for lawyers to be specifically trained in these types of cases?
The dedication that Austin and Travis County have shown to prioritizing child welfare in our community being as quality of an experience as possible is one that has been a focus long before I entered the child welfare practice. It's funny to be answering this question sitting next to Justice Byrne, because so much of the structure around the child welfare courts in Travis County was built by her. Often people will tell me you went to the school of Byrne, and that's true in a lot of ways. And it's reflected in my care and treatment of the families that are in our system today. It's a torch that's carried on by the district court, Judge Martinez Jones, today, in the way that she develops and shapes our structure to continue to progress us forward. Specializing in this area is integral to getting this area of the law right. It is family law, but it is a distinct part of family law. Having practitioners who specialize in it, courts who specialize in it, and other community stakeholders who specialize in it that we work so closely with is the reason why in Travis County we have high outcomes for reunification when it is safe to be done. We have high outcomes for children who remain placed with their kinship and relative caregivers, and why we have such a quality of services available to our children and families in our community. Because we have practitioners and courts who specialize in the child welfare system in Austin and Travis County, you have trauma-informed courts available to every family that comes through the system. They are before a judge who knows what resources may match with what this family is currently struggling with, or what this child in this particular case needs. And we have an ability in a resource-rich community compared to some other areas of Texas to actually connect families with what they need. And wouldn't you know it, when you give families and kids what they're needing to succeed, they often do. I think that that's the benefit of us utilizing community who specializes in this area, and in the civil district court's commitment to having courts that specialize in this area. The proof is in the pudding for what we can get done inside of our cases.
Now, for the audience, we have folks that they hear about Adoption Day. They love Adoption Day. Denise Hyde was the founding chair of that, has been chair of that for many, many years. But we at this table know that's not the only outcome for children and families. There is adoption, there's reunification, there are things sort of in between. And then there are some youth, and they just, I hate this term, but they just age out of foster care, which means they leave and they didn't get any of those opportunities. They didn't go back with their family nor get a new family. So can we talk about some of these outcomes and why it's important to be having this discussion in a really healthy child welfare system?
Absolutely. There are numerous outcomes. Our primary focus, day one, is can the child return home with their biological mom and dad safely? And let's drive to that. That is goal one. Our secondary goal, if that can't be achieved even on day one, we're looking at extended family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, godparents, fictive kin, people. I don't know about you, but in my family, we have a gentleman that we call, Uncle Paul. He's not blood related, but as far as we're concerned, he is Uncle Paul. So we look for all of those people primarily through the mouth of the child. Who do you love? Who do you feel safe with? How do we get in touch with them? How often have you seen them? And we work, and again, we do this day one. Even CASA of Travis County has an initial family finding methodology and specialized team to work on looking for those extended family members. Then the next are those angels on the planet that give of their life, their time, their toil, their talent to somebody that they've never met, never known, and they're called foster parents. And they're just absolutely amazing human beings that step up to the plate to take these children into their homes and love them and give them a forever family. And then you're right. Regrettably, we do have another outcome, and that's often aging out, extended foster care. Thank goodness, many, many years ago, the Texas legislature approved extended foster care. So if a child is in foster care at age 18 and they agree to remain in foster care, they will sign an agreement with the department and they can stay in foster care until they're 21. And I think that that's incredibly telling. And some of that advocacy was born right here in Travis County, working with our state legislatures, having them recognize that many of our 18-year-olds, many of our foster students, are at least 1 or 2 years behind in their education. But even if they were on grade, let's say, I don't know how many listeners we have, but my son turned 18 in March. School's not done till May. What do? We kick them out of their foster home? So that was not something that we could tolerate for these young people. So we have extended foster care, and then many of our resources like LifeWorks and a variety of other places in the community help wrap around those young people. And then the aging out. These young people are the ones that we struggle with regard to housing, those that choose at 18 to have nothing more to do with the foster care system. And I was listening to Susan McDowell, the CEO of LifeWorks, just last week about we have right now about 900 youth, not necessarily foster youth, but many of them are in this community right now that are either couch surfing or homeless. And we need to build a community, a network of support for these young people. We need to provide them through this foundation and through foster angels the resources that they can tap into so that if college is not a pathway for them, they can go to technical school and get a license. If that is not a pathway and college is, how do we wrap them up with a computer? How do we get their transportation paid? How do we get them prepared through the ACT or the SAT courses? Those things are critical, and what loving parents, loving foster parents, loving extended family members do naturally. And this system needs to provide that to Texas's children. these foster children, their parent is the state of Texas. We are a rich state, and yet we impoverish our children. And that's shameful. And part of what we're trying to do today is to step up to the plate for those kids and go, you're our children. You're our community's children, and we want to see you thrive.
These young people that we're describing are such capable, wonderful young people. We try to work very closely with kids who are reaching their upper teenage years if they're remaining in the conservatorship of the department, because we know that that legal adulthood is right around the corner for them. In Travis County, we have a dedicated docket for these young people. We call it the Emerging Young Adult Docket, or the YA docket for short. And we are just ending our first year of initial cohort of members of that docket. These are people who are at risk of aging out of care. And we want to make sure that in the time that we have left to work with them, we are equipping them as much as possible for what is next for them once they turn 18. We hope every single one of them chooses extended care. We know that some may and some may not. So we want to get them into a position of, do they know how to open a bank account? Do they know how to apply for a job? Do they know how to make an appointment with their doctor and speak to their doctor about how to get their medical needs met? What are their goals for adulthood, and how do they realistically understand the steps to get to that place? We can probably all think back to that time in our lives when we were about 16 and who we turned to for advice about what to happen next. We had probably really big ideas of what we wanted in our life, but needed help from trusted adults about how to get to those goals. We're working in Travis County closely with those young people, and they do have beautiful goals in mind for careers, for housing, for education, for their own family planning. And we hope to position all of them to be able to reach those goals safely and realistically. We could not do that work without the connection of the community stakeholders in town. They provide these, for example, CASA volunteer might be the person to go with a young person to fill out that application, to see what they need to get their state ID. You need a dedicated and competent caseworker through the department to help guide them through these processes. And they need the resources available through our community partners to be able to get their textbooks in hand, to be able to buy a first set of pots and pans when they enter into supervised independent living, to be able to pick up a bus pass and learn how to use the bus system to get to their cosmetology course or their freshman year of college classes. And so we hope that that partnership that we have between the courts, the child welfare system, and the community can be further enriched to progress more and more to do a better and better job for these young people than we're able to do today.
So one of those community organizations is Foster Angels. And Allison, can you talk about what Foster Angels does, and also the scholarship that you all have for these youth that are transitioning out of care?
We work with kids all the way up till they're age 26. As they've spoken about, we do acknowledge that they haven't gotten the consistent support that they need. So we are offering as much as we can until they feel like they can be on their own. I feel like Foster Angels does a great job filling in these gaps, acknowledging the needs wherever the path may take them. But the reality is they need money for the bus pass. They need money for the computer, transportation. We partner with them to save money and match for a car. But then you have car insurance and car expenses. It's a lot to negotiate when they're also negotiating finding the campus or whatever choice they have made and continuing their path towards education. We do offer some scholarships. Thrilled to be able to partner with the Austin Bar Association to continue to fill in those gaps. Foster Angels provides scholarships, $2,500 a year for 4 years to really get them through college. Unfortunately, we have applicants who don't get that scholarship but they can continue to apply. There's no maximum amount of time they can apply for those daily needs, like a computer or a contact solution or the SAT class. Or the one we see the most is needing money for rent. They're organized, they're working hard, and it comes, the last 7 to 10 days of the month, and that's a continued and consistent gap that we see to pay for rent. So not only when we give them the money, but have a conversation. Can we help you budget? Why is there this gap? Do you need to get a job? Do we need to pull back on expenses? So we do offer mentoring as well. But the money is really the critical part. And as they've said, we live in a state that does have the money. So we should be giving to this population who still wants to be a part of our community. And we need them as a part of our community.
Well, and Justice Byrne, you worked with Denise Hyde for so long on Adoption Day in your previous role. You were sort of the brainchild of saying you don't just get adopted. Sometimes you just leave care. And so you thought there needed to be a scholarship for this population. Why was it so important to have that and to name it after Denise?
Well, I think hearing Judge Mathews Rodriguez and Allison talking about the many practical needs these young people have, and we as parents, that those of us who are listening that are parents, you understand the significant need that your children have as they're transitioning into adulthood. It doesn't just stop once they've got their high school diploma or their GED. Really, a lot of the most expensive parts of raising our children has just begun for most of us as parents. So the need is there, and it is deep and it is wide. And why Denise Hyde? Why name it after Denise? There are so many reasons. I had the privilege of meeting Denise Hyde as an attorney in my courtroom. I had the privilege of meeting Judge Mathews Rodriguez as an attorney in my courtroom. And let me just tell you, both of them were the best of the best, doing amazing work for both children and parents in our system. Oftentimes, the lawyer will, one case they'll represent a parent, and in another case they'll represent the child. And we found that to be really good for legal education, to be able to see that we're really all here for a common goal, the best interest of the children that we're serving. As a parent attorney, that's as critically as important as meeting the parents' needs, reaching the best interest of the child. And Denise did that with aplomb. She started, Adoption Day was her brainchild. And, she's on that one side, the beginning side of a forever family. That's a magical day. I hope that one day our audience members will participate in Adoption Day and just see it live and in color. It truly is magical and quite a celebration. But then on the other end of the spectrum are these young people that, not for any fault of their own, did not get that forever family. There might be many, many reasons. Many of our teenagers, they don't want their parents' rights terminated. They know they can't go home safely with their parent because their parent's not in a position for that at the moment. But they still need that healthy adult that they can count on and know that's there at 2 a.m, on their good days and on their bad days. And that's what this Denise Hyde Fund is. Denise has stood up for children in this community for over 20 years. And what better person to name this fund after than Denise Hyde? She's truly an inspiration to me, and I believe to many of the lawyers that do this work in the field of child welfare.
So, Allison, how can the audience support the Denise Hyde Fund and Foster Angels?
We would love any support, obviously financial, because we really want to meet the needs of as many children and young adults as we can. So you can go to the chat here. You can go to the Austin Bar Association website. Please visit us at Foster Angels, our website. You can learn more about all the things that we have to offer from infants to age 26. But specifically, we'd love for you to support this critical time in young adults' lives up to age of 26 to get them through the education process so they can become part of our community.
Well, thank you all so much for this discussion. Is there anything that y'all would like to add before we go?
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but I've been so inspired by our discussion today and continue to be inspired by Denise Hyde. And Amanda, I want to thank you for doing this for us today and for our Bar Association. Thank you very, very much. And I am looking forward to making a contribution today in the amount of $500 to the Denise Hyde Fund.
I'm going to match that too. $500. Thank you so much for inspiring me.
Well, I'm inspired as well. I'll do the same, ladies.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to match too. So we got an extra $2,000 and we're going to challenge all of our listeners to match as well.
Fantastic. You know, it's such a privilege to be a member of the Austin Bar Association and be part of a legal community that truly cares about every member of our community. Thanks for the time today to talk about some of our favorite members of our community.
Well, I'm excited to have you all back because it sounds like the next scholarship is going to be named after Leigh Mathews Rodriguez. So I'm going to bring back that panel when we decide what that money is for.
I would also like to just say thank you to our bar members and the legal community in Austin. It is truly generous, and Foster Angels couldn't be here without it. So thank you, and thanks for your time and letting everybody know how the needs in this community continue.
Okay, thanks, y'all. We'll see y'all next time.